Good morning, Larimer County, and welcome to our July 23, 2024 Administrative Matters meeting. It is 9:01 a.m. As is our tradition, we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Thank you all very much, and it's good to see the folks that are assembled here in the Commissioner's hearing room. My name is John Kafalis, Commissioner from District 1, joined by my colleagues, Kristen Stevens from District 2, Jody Shattuck McNally from District 3. Across the way, we have Heather from the Clerk and Recorder's Office taking minutes, recording the meeting. Of course, it is a public meeting that is available for folks on the website as well as it's being broadcast. We also have our County Manager, Lorinda Volker, and two folks from our office, Tom Clayton and Sarah Martin, and I believe that covers it for the introductions. Moving right along, first item of business is public comment. Looking at the sign-up sheet, no one has signed up. Sarah, has anyone called in or wishes to offer public comment via that technology?
No, Commissioner.
Oh, how sad. All right, then, I don't believe there are folks here who wish to offer public comment, so we will close that portion of our Administrative Matters meeting, and we'll move on to, approval of the minutes. Commissioner Stevens, you are on. For the motion, please.
Yes, of course. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to approve the minutes for the week of July 15th, 2024.
Thanks, Commissioner. That is indeed a proper motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That passes 3-0. We now move to one of our favorite parts of the Administrative Matters agenda, a review of the upcoming schedule. Sarah, this one is yours.
This is the Commissioner's schedule for July 29th through August 4th, 2024. On Monday, July 29th, from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., Commissioners Kafalis and Shattuck McNally may participate in the virtual youth mental health stakeholder session. From 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m., there will be a work session regarding performance measures for human and economic health in the Commissioner's conference room on the second floor. From 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m., Commissioner Kafalis may attend the American Friends of the Parents Circle, Bereaved Israelis and Palestinians for Peace at the Old Town Library at 201 Peterson Street in Fort Collins. From 1:30 p.m. to 2:30 p.m., there will be a work session with Leslie Ellis, Director of Community Planning, Infrastructure, and Resources, in the Commissioner's conference room on the second floor. On Tuesday, July 30th, from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., there will be an Administrative Matters meeting in the hearing room on the first floor. From 1:30 p.m. to 3 p.m., there will be administrative direction to county management in the Sprague Lake Conference Room on the second floor. From 3:30 p.m. to 5 p.m., Commissioner Shattuck McNally may attend the Rodeo Board meeting. It's a hybrid meeting. In person, it will be at the Thomas M. McKee 4-H Youth and Community Building at 5280 Arena Circle in Loveland, or virtually via Zoom. On Wednesday, July 31st, from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m., the Commissioners will attend the Poudre School District Community Meeting in the boardroom at 2407 LaPorte Avenue in Fort Collins. From 10:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m., there will be a liquor license hearing for George Beach Post Number 4 American Legion in the Commissioners' Conference Room on the second floor. From 1:30 p.m. to 3:30 p.m., Commissioners will attend the Larimer County Environmental Stewardship Awards in the hearing room on the first floor. On Thursday, August 1st, from 7:30 a.m. to 9 a.m., Commissioners Kafalis and Stevens will host a community conversation for the Wellington and Waverly communities regarding updates on Interstate 25 North Front Range Metropolitan Planning Organization at the Front Range Rail and the Front Range Rail Transportation Master Plan, Busting, and Colorado Department of Transportation at Avuncular Bob's T-Bar Inn at 3803 West Cleveland Avenue in Wellington. From 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m., Commissioner Shattuck McNally may participate in the virtual Counties and Commissioners Acting Together County Revenue Authority Group Meeting. From 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., Commissioner Stevens may attend the North Front Range Metropolitan Planning Organization Planning Council meeting at the Johnstown Community YMCA at 165 Sedler Way in Johnstown. From 6:30 p.m. to 10:30 p.m., Commissioners Gonzalez and Shattuck McNally will attend the Larimer County Fair and Rodeo Queens Barbecue at the Ranch at 5280 Arena Circle in Loveland. On Friday, August 2nd, from 9:30 a.m. to 12 p.m., Commissioner Stevens may attend the Regional Air Quality Council Board meeting. It's a hybrid meeting. In person, it'll be in the 4th floor boardroom at 1445 Market Street in Denver, or virtually via Zoom. From 4:30 p.m. to 5:30 p.m., Commissioners will attend the Larimer County Fair and Rodeo Indigenous Blessing at the Ranch at 5280 Arena Circle in Loveland. On Saturday, August 3rd, there is an open schedule. On Sunday, August 4th, from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m., Commissioners will attend the Larimer County Fair and Rodeo Pancake Breakfast at the Ranch at 5280 Arena Circle in Loveland. From 1 to 2 p.m., Commissioner Gonzalez will judge the Larimer County Fair Dairy Goat Competition at the Ranch at 5280 Arena Circle in Loveland. From 2 to 4 p.m., Commissioners Gonzalez and Shattuck McNally may attend the Fort Collins Museum of Discovery Human Library event at 408 Mason Court in Fort Collins. And from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., Commissioner Shattuck McNally will attend the Larimer County Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association Rodeo at Blue Arena at 5280 Arena Circle in Loveland.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you very much. Colleagues, do you have any questions or adjustments to the schedule? Commissioner Stevens, yes.
Yeah, just a couple things. So on Thursday, August 1st, I am going to be speaking to the Classified Personnel Council at CSU from 11 to 12. I think that's in the Alumni Center building. And then I will be coming to the Queen's Barbecue, but probably late from the meeting. So I'll be there for the, for the dancing, maybe not for the eating. And then on Sunday, I'm going to try to sign up for the Human Library event too. I was at the library yesterday and they were talking it up, and I had been the previous year. So I think I'm going to add those to my calendar. Thank you.
Commissioner Shattuck McNally.
Sarah, I think you covered it. There are some other lots of other individual. I have I might attend. Did we put the community meeting on the 30th? On July 31st. Oh, that one. Okay, it's on there. I didn't know if that was on there. Okay, so I think that's it. I have some other individual meetings, but I don't think those need to be on since I'm going by myself. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. And Sarah, the only thing I have is a very small edit regarding the dairy goat competition. I would insert the word dairy goat costume competition.
I've judged that in previous years, and it is a costumed event.
The handlers as well as the goats have costumes. And actually, if you've done that, Commissioner, I would like to consult with you ahead of time. I have all the materials, and I want to be as fair and objective as possible.
Absolutely.
But having judged a corgi costume event years ago, it's not very easy. Okay, thank you very much, Sarah. We now move on to the consent agenda. And the consent agenda, for those who may not know, is typically, the items that are listed there are typically items that are routine in nature, administrative in nature. As far as we know, there's no real controversy, and so that is a way of making our administrative matters meeting more efficient. We approve these things en masse with a motion. The commissioners do have the option of removing something from the consent agenda. And if that occurs, which is rare, I believe, then we would have a discussion on that particular topic. So, with that in mind, I'm going to go through the consent agenda. My delivery might be a little bit slower and measured because I want to make sure our guest is here when we have our commissioner guest. So the first item on the consent agenda for July 23rd, 2024 is an abatement, petition for abatement or refund of taxes exceeding the allotted refund amount of $10,000. This is for tax years 2023. So that is the first item, petition for abatement or refund of taxes. Next category has to do with agreements. The first agreement is Signal Behavioral Health Network Substance Use Disorder Services Agreement. This is an agreement with Signal Health Network to provide strategic individualized remediation treatment, STIRT, services to individuals who are dealing with serious drug and alcohol issues, who face imminent incarceration. This is through our community corrections program services. And here this is between the county community corrections and the behavioral health network. The dollar amount is approximately $1.1 million. The terms are July 1, 2024 through June 30th of 2025, which happens to be the state fiscal year. The second agreement is Colorado Department of Transportation Memorandum of Agreement, temporary construction easement, submitted by our engineering folks. This memorandum of agreement relates to a City of Fort Collins road improvement project on LaPorte Avenue and a temporary construction easement that the city needs to facilitate the project on a small parcel of land owned by the county. This is close to I think it's in the northwest corner of the intersection of LaPorte Avenue and Taft Hill. The term is 1 year from the start of the project, and the dollar amount, because it is a small parcel, is about $2,000, rounded up. The next agreement, Federal Lands Access Program Project Memorandum of Agreement. Let's see. Under this agreement, the county will provide a little more than $3 million in funding to the Federal Highway Administration for the purpose of completing certain improvements to the parking lots and roads at the Carter Lake and Horsetooth reservoirs. The overall project cost is approximately, $14,300,000, and the county's financial responsibility for the project is the $3 million or so that I mentioned earlier. The term is from the date signed through the project completion. This is between the county and the Federal Highway Administration. So that is that. We move on to deeds. Deed of dedication from the Ulrich Family Limited Partnership for right-of-way for project number 6017 on County Road 52. This is between the county and the property owners. Additional right-of-way needed for County Road 62, project number 6017. Moving on, we have liquor licenses. There are two. The first is a special event liquor permit, 6%, the Vegetable Connection. This is for a special event. I imagine it'll be fun. This is a approval and issuance. The second is liquor license renewal for the Thirsty Moose up in Red Feather Lakes. Hotel and restaurant. The license type is hotel and restaurant with optional premise, approval and issuance. Next category is miscellaneous. The first is an agreement regarding the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Advisory, the 2024 bylaws. There have been some minor changes to the bylaws, and that is what this particular item is all about. A lot of credit to our Assistant County Manager, who's been working very diligently to work with all the advisory boards and commissions, which are really important to us, to update some of these bylaws as needed. The next is Extension Advisory Board Committee Bylaws 2024. Once again, an update on these particular bylaws. The next item under miscellaneous is second quarter 2024 public trustee report submitted by our county treasurer. And this basically is a summary of activity between April 1, 2024 and June 30th, 2024. Number 4, this is the annual compliance certification report. Annual compliance certification report, monitoring and permit deviation report from Larimer County landfill. That's a mouthful. I neglected to mention that while I'm summarizing all of these and going through it somewhat quickly, all of the details are on the website in our packet for today, so you can read as much as you'd like. So the annual compliance certification report. This is solid waste. These annual and semi-annual reports are required by the landfill's air emissions permit. The landfill is currently in compliance with all permit conditions. Then we move on to stipulations. There are 8 stipulations, adjustments to the property value, and all of these stipulations pertain to the 2023 tax year. The last category is resolutions. The first is a resolution calling an election regarding Larimer County Poudre Overlook Public Improvement District number 30. We have various, I think 60 some odd or public improvement districts in the county that the residents, the property owners approve through a process. In this case, we're signing a resolution resolving that a mail ballot election shall be held on Tuesday, November 5th of this year in the Larimer County Poudre Overlook PID number 30 to increase the mill levy approved in 2004 per the request of the PID board. So that'll be on the ballot, and that will only affect the folks who live in that particular area. Second is similar. All 3 of these are PID. Resolution calling an election regarding Larimer County Vine Drive, PID number 29. The same thing, in this case, approving an increase in the mill levy. This was approved in 2010, and again, this is per the request of the PID board. Number 3, resolution calling an election regarding Larimer County Greyhawk Knolls Public Improvement District number 43. Similar, increase the mill levy, approved in 2010 per the request of the PID board. So that is the consent agenda. Do either of my colleagues wish to remove anything from the consent agenda?
I do not, Mr. Chair.
I do not.
Nor do I. That's nice when we all agree. That's great. So let's see, Commissioner Shattuck McNally, please offer the motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda for July 23rd, 2024.
Thank you very much. That is a proper motion. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that passes 3-0. So we're going to pivot a little bit here, and the next item that's listed on the agenda is we
Can
are.
I just, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not sure that our rodeo queen knew
I was gonna
which
speak-
building we were going to.
Pardon?
I think she ended up at the Loveland building. Will she be coming later?
I was going to speak to that.
Oh, okay. Oh, I
So
apologize.
so I was going to adjust the agenda so that we can move on to discussion items. Then we'll come back to to our rodeo queen, who will be here. Based on the information that I was provided, she did get a little bit turned around. I think she's like 20 minutes away.
Oh, okay. You have more information than I do. Thank you.
I have my sources. So are we good with moving on to? Yes, we'll move on to discussion items, and the first item on that agenda, and then we'll come back, of course, to. We're very blessed and privileged that the Cora will be with us today. Absolutely, and of course, I wore my bolo tie and my Western boots and my fair and rodeo shirt, so she's definitely got to be here. So, okay. The first item, approval of the Board of Equalization referee recommendations. We have our colleagues here. And on this one, let me just say, let's see. This is basically the referee's recommendations to the commissioners convened as the Board of Equalization need to be reviewed and approved for the hearings recently held. So I would entertain a motion to convene as the Board of Equalization. Commissioner Stevens,
Yes, Mr. Chair, I move to convene as the Board of Equalization.
proper motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's 3-0. We are now convened as the Board of Equalization. At this time, I'd like to ask our colleagues to provide a bit of information of what we are considering to approve here.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Elizabeth Carter with the Recording Department in the Clerk and Recorder's Office. I have my colleague Deirdre O'Neill with me as well. And we'll be sure to give you an overview of the hearings that were held from July 15th through July 17th. But first, just wanted to give you a little bit of background on this year's cycle, if you would indulge us for a few moments. Obviously, we are in a non-valuation year, so our volume of petitions is greatly lessened compared to last year. With that, though, one thing that we are offering this year that we are very excited about and have had a good response to our virtual hearings. So this year, hearings are being held both in person and virtually. To date, just to kind of give you a gauge on the level of interest, as of yesterday, we had scheduled 95 hearings. Those had been virtual requests. And then still a steady request for in-person. We will hold 57 in-person hearings. Our estimates right now are that we'll probably hold roughly 100 hearings total, dealing with about 300 accounts. So scheduling for personal property petitions completed yesterday for any in-person requests or any emails. We, of course, will honor any requests we get via mail that are postmarked for the 22nd. And then commercial property and residential property, the scheduling ended for that on July the 15th. Again, for in-person and email requests, of course, we would honor anything with the appropriate postmark. So, and just quickly, as always, want to thank our partners in the assessor's office. I know Clerk Harris and Assessor Overbeck have met frequently, and it's through those meetings and the help of the manager's office, who has been a great support as well, that we're all able to offer some of these different options, hopefully to make the process a little bit easier for petitioners. And thanks to our referees who you all have appointed for us. They've been great. They're always extremely flexible in terms of adjusting to schedules and making sure that they're available for hearings, and we deeply appreciate them. And of course, to our petitioners who are always kind and patient with us. We've been pretty fortunate this year. Just about all of our requests that we've received, we've been able to schedule within a 24-hour time frame. Of course, a lot of that has to do with the volume, but we always appreciate our petitioners' patience with us. So for the hearings that have been held so far, again, this is from July 15th through the 17th, there were 11 accounts that had hearings, and those include accounts for real property, mobile homes, business personal property, oil and gas, severed mineral rights, and possessory interest accounts. So of those 11 accounts, 7 accounts were adjusted. All those adjustments were the result of a stipulated change, so an agreement between the assessor's office and the petitioner, and 4 accounts were denied. So that is the summary of the hearings through the 17th. We'll be back every week for the next 2 weeks to give you an update until the hearings are completed. Our hope is to complete hearings on August the 2nd. And we are happy to try and answer any questions you might have.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth and Deirdre. Colleagues, do you have any questions for our presenters? Commissioner Stevens?
I don't have any questions. Just want to say thank you. I'm glad to hear the process is going smoothly. The referees are working out, and that everything is going well. And I love the idea of virtual hearings. I think that probably makes life easier for everyone involved. So, thank you for your report, and we'll look forward to seeing you. We're happy that we get to see you for 2 weeks.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Shattuck McNally?
My gratitude. I know this is, especially after last year and this year, probably feels like it hasn't stopped. So I appreciate your work, and it is certainly remarkable getting them all scheduled within 24 hours. So just appreciate this. And just real quick, I have a question. The percentage 18, was about 18%, and I see one of them was a very large one. Was the biggest one for that change, and I'm just curious, do we have any information on that item?
I don't. So usually when we see a decrease of that nature, it's often due to a classification change. I don't believe that that was the case here. I believe that decision, Commissioner, was just made at the discretion of the referee.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Also express my gratitude for your hard work, innovation with the virtual hearings. I think that's great. And certainly the customer service that you folks provide day in and day out. I do have 2 questions. One is kind of building off of what Commissioner Shattuck McNally. Could you just share for the public the total dollar amounts regarding the NOD value and inform the public what NOD stands for? And what does this all mean in terms of dollars?
Sure. So the NOD is the Notice of Determination. So when a petitioner, and some of these questions I would probably refer to the assessor's office, but I'll give my limited understanding. So a petitioner, when they receive their property tax notification, has the ability to appeal that property tax to the assessor's office. The assessor's office then reviews that materials. They, I believe, also do meet with the petitioner if that is requested, and they issue what is known as a notice of determination. If the petitioner receives that NOD or notice of determination and still disagrees with the value or does not think that it was adjusted appropriately, that is when they can take what we refer to as the second step in the process and appeal to the County Board of Equalization.
And the total dollar amounts that are at the bottom of your little spreadsheet?
So the total dollar amounts for the 11 accounts were $17,429,300.
And the stipulations or the adjustments in the property values resulted in?
$14,199,100, and so an adjustment of $3,230,200. So it was about a change of 18.53% on those accounts.
And of course, Elizabeth, my intention is not to put you on the spot. I just want to make sure we're informing the public as best as we can.
Absolutely.
And you guys always do an outstanding job. My second question is, the 100 or so hearings that are occurring with the referees this year, how does that compare with last year?
So last year, please don't quote me, but I believe we did 2,400-ish hearings. And then last year, this year, so roughly about 300 accounts, we will believe. And last year it was 4,000 plus accounts.
Okay, great.
Were
Thank you so
fixed.
much. Well done. I believe now it's time for, unless anyone else has anything to say. Okay, we'll move on to the next motion. Let's see, let's stick with Commissioner Stevens.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I move to approve the recommendations submitted by the Board of Equalization referees for the hearings held July 15th, 2024 through July 17th, 2024.
Great, thank you kindly. That's a proper motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That passes 3-0. The final motion, Commissioner Stevens, you're doing so well.
Okay. I move to adjourn the meeting as the Board of Equalization and reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners.
Proper motion, further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That also passes 3-0. Good, well done. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
Okay, moving right along. We will now invite our esteemed clerk and recorder, Larimer County Clerk and Recorder Tina Harris, to give us a bit of an update, summary of how the June 25th primary election went and all the certification that you all do.
Yes, thank you. So I'm Tina Harris, the Clerk and Recorder. Thanks for having me today. I'm very excited to share some information with you about the June 25th, 2024 election, including a huge win. So, and when I say a huge win, we implemented something for this election that created or decreased the number of rejected ballots. So, overall, statewide, it was a low turnout for this election. It was about 25.99%, so 26%. But Larimer County, we had about a 29.5% return rate. And compared to our last primary election in 2022, it was at 32.3%. So, just a little lower. We had mail ballots returned. We had 74,070 ballots returned. 73,506 were accepted. We had about 544 rejected, and they're rejected for multiple reasons. Sometimes no signature on the outside of the envelope, a signature discrepancy. It could be that an unaffiliated voter voted more than one ballot, so those would get rejected. We had 449 ballots cast in person. That's at one of our vote centers. I was going to say VSPC, but he saw that I corrected that. I'm not going to go down that acronym road. We had eligible electors in Larimer County. We have 254,659 eligible electors. Unaffiliated voters who returned a Democratic ballot was 15,375. Unaffiliated voters who returned a Republican ballot was 12,275. So during this primary, what we did for the unaffiliated voters is we implemented a secrecy sleeve that enhanced the voter instructions, specifically to only return one ballot. And so what we saw in our March primary, the presidential primary, we had a little over 3% of ballots rejected because more than one ballot was voted and returned to us. During this election, we had less than 1% because of the enhanced voter instructions on that secrecy sleeve. We're going to contribute to that because prior, we only put in a voter instruction pamphlet or a piece of paper. Now we have the secrecy sleeve with those enhanced instructions. So that was we feel that was a huge win, getting that word out. A couple of things that now we're preparing for our November 5th election, right? And so some of the things that we are doing is well, we're preparing for that. But one thing I want to say is if anyone did not get a ballot for this past election, the June 25th election, please go out and check your voter registration because there could be a change that needs to happen. They could have moved something has happened and they have not updated their voter registration. So we want to ensure that everybody is going out and checking their voter registration. I also want to encourage everyone to become an election judge, because to me, that is being part of the election process is the best way to really get to know how elections are conducted here in Larimer County. And if you have any doubts, please volunteer, come, and it's a paid position. And we also applied for a grant this year to get a $3 additional per hour for our election judges. So please go out and check that out. It's easy to apply. You go out to our website at vote.larimer.gov and apply for the election judge position. A couple of things I also want to highlight is we have a few upcoming events for the clerk's office, and I want everybody to come out and see us if they can. On August 7th or 2nd through the 6th, we will have a booth at the fair. So come out, ask your questions, engage with us. We're happy to have conversations. And that's going to be the entire clerk's office represented there. So vehicle licensing, recording, and elections. And on August 15th, I have a speaking engagement at the Estes Park Library at 6 p.m. So if you'd like to come out, and those of you in Estes Park want to come out and have a conversation with me, please feel free to do so. And August 17th, we'll have a booth at the Peach Festival as well. We're doing a lot of community outreach and engagement this year to encourage people to get out to engage with our office. And then August 31st, we'll be at the Artisan Street Fair in Fort Collins as well. So please follow us on our social media. We have an Instagram account, Facebook, and X. This gives you an updated, just gives you where our whereabouts, also has a lot of did you know and a lot of great information about our department, the clerk's office. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Thank you very much, Tina, Madam Clerk and Recorder. Questions, Commissioner Stevens, and then we'll go to Commissioner Shattuck McNally.
Thanks for all the information, Tina. Really appreciate it, and really appreciate how you keep kind of working on continuous improvement. I mean, I think that that's really important, and so I'd love to hear that there are fewer ballots that were rejected because of the secrecy sleeve and the additional instructions. So that's great news. One thing with your outreach, when you're doing your outreach, do you have like laptops so you can show people how to get online? What does your outreach look like at some of those booths? Are people able to check their registration? Are they able to kind of see what your website looks like? Because I think those pieces are really valuable to kind of see, check if your vote was counted and that kind of thing. Can you tell me what your outreach looks like?
Absolutely. So we just did a booth at the Harmony farmers market on Sunday. We did not have a computer there, and so that's something that we were out there just gauging the community to see what that was going to look like. We will have a tablet or a computer set up with a MiFi to make sure everyone can access that. They can check their voter registration right then and there. We will also have information about our recording department, vehicle licensing, and elections as well. And then if anybody, I will be out at those booths, so if anybody wants to engage and ask me questions, I'll be there as well. We'll have staff manning it.
Perfect. Yeah, I did not mean to imply that all you do is elections. You do so much more. So, yeah. So it's good for people to be able to figure out how to make an appointment, for example, to get their, license plates or, how to use a kiosk or whatever. So thank you very much for that outreach. I think that's really important in an election year to be able to be out there and just reminding folks that, we can help you figure this out. So,
absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Shattuck McNally.
Thank you, Clerk and Recorder Harris. I appreciate your efforts, especially to engage the community and make sure people understand. It's so much important work that you do that's statutorily required. I know it's a lot of rules and things, so I appreciate getting out. And I was wondering also, there is the Corn Festival and some other things that might have a good chance to get some folks to help, because I think older adults too maybe have trouble with technology. So having some, I know My mother finally learned how to text the other day. I got a text. I was really surprised. So she's been trying. The question I have is, besides all these wonderful things with the recording opportunity and things, you also have the voting sticker, and people might not know about that, why there's a different colored sticker. And I didn't know if that was another opportunity to kind of share about that will look different than the American flag. And I didn't know if you were going to try to explain that to folks in the process, because I thought that was pretty unique.
Yes, thank you for that. Actually, I meant to put that on my list, but it slipped. For the November 5th election, you're going to see a brand new I Voted sticker. It's going to be a Columbine. We held a I Voted sticker contest for students, and our winner was here a few months ago. And so you'll see a new Columbine sticker that has I Voted on there in English and in Spanish. And so we're very excited. I just saw a roll of those come across my desk not too long ago. So we're very excited. They look beautiful.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and I can't wait to see them. So thank you very much. I appreciate it, and I might stop by just to see how it's going. So
Yes.
thanks.
Thank you, Tina. And I'm noticing that I have my I voted stickers on my little pad here. Although there are two of them, I wish to assure you that I did not vote twice. I'm not quite
Thank
sure.
you for that.
I'm not quite sure why there are two. I do have one question, and then otherwise, thank you for your team's great work on the election stuff and all the other things that the Clerk and Recorder's office does, and that is regarding the Instagram platform that you folks are using. Is that something new, or have you been doing that? And was part of the logic behind that to maybe reach out, inform a younger demographic? Because I think younger folks use Instagram.
Yeah, so our Instagram account is fairly new. It's about 2 months. I'm going to say about 2 months old now. I'm going to say about 2 months old. And we are trying to reach different demographics. And so the Facebook, we always had a Facebook and an X account, and then we recently added the Instagram account. And so, the more people we can get to follow us, the more information will get out there in the community. So we like to encourage everyone to follow us if they can. And if they need any assistance locating us, which they just need to type in Larimer_clerk, and we pop up. So if they have any issues trying to find us on one of those social media sites, then reach out to our office directly so we can assist with that.
Great. Thank you. And I guess in closing, I just want to reinforce that the three commissioners in our office, we want to work together with you. I think it's important that in terms of messaging and getting the word out so folks will engage in our representative democracy, and they'll make informed decisions. I think a united front would be very helpful. So anything we can do appropriately to help your work, please let us know.
Thank you. And I would like to share just one more thing before we close. A milestone today, we are moving our Agilis into our new counting facility. So that's very exciting. It started yesterday and it'll finish up today. So we're very excited about that. We're looking forward to moving into our new space.
And actually, Tina, for those of us who are not election nerds, what is Agilis?
Our Agilis is our ballot accepting equipment. It receives our ballots. So it scans those, it receives them, it scans the ballots for signature verification.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Shadrack McNally.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tina, may I come and do a tour once you guys all moved in? I know it's really getting busy, but before you really have kind of the hustle and bustle, I know there's a lot to do, but if there's appropriate time, could your office reach out to Melissa and see if I can just come over and take a short tour? I'd like to come see the new space and see how this all looks. I've toured before, right before the elections, and I sure would like to come see and see how you settled in. And since we kind of allocated that money, was $3 million, I believe, right?
Yes.
And so I like to just see how that all ended up and how that funding was. I know the space and the Agilis was, I think, 100,000.
It was quite a bit of money.
Yes, I'd love to come see it and check it out. If you would mind, I just humbly ask to come do that. Thank you.
Yes, we will be hosting a ribbon cutting and open house that all of you will be invited to. It's on August 30th. 3 to 5. And then that will be the first open house we'll have. Then we will have a separate open house for all of our election judges to come through so we can share the fun with them as well.
Okay, I have to look. I guess I haven't seen that's on my calendar, but I'm so busy that I don't look that far ahead. So I'm looking, and
You should have invites.
Are just actually, if our financial services folks and our auditor folks are willing to just be a little bit more patient, we do have our rodeo queen, and would like to once again shift gears, pivot, and welcome our rodeo queen, and we'll move to that part of the agenda, and then we'll go back to the financial services. Welcome, Cora. Nice to see you. Come on up. Take a deep breath. Offer you water, but I don't have a water bottle.
Oh, you're fine. All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Cora Fetzer. I'm the 2024 Larimer County Fair and Rodeo Queen. And I'm sorry I'm late. I got my schedule so packed for fair coming up that I went to the place where I'm having a meeting on Thursday with Poudre Valley. So I'm sorry about that.
It's all good.
Yeah.
It's all good.
I'd like to take a couple minutes just talk about the fair that we have coming up August 2nd through the 6th at the fair at Loveland in the Ranch. And then we also have my Queen's Barbecue August 1st, and I'd like to invite everybody here to it. It's also at the ranch, so it's kind of nice to have everything grouped in the same place so that we don't get our schedules confused like I did today. But yeah. And then we have our PRCA rodeos starting the 4th. So we have them Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. It's a little bit different than regular schedules, but it's really cool because then we can get a lot of the really awesome competitors that we have in rodeo there because they're not on the way to a bigger rodeo, and then they can kind of stop in, get their run, and then go on to the next big one. So we have that, and we were actually voted the best medium rodeo of the year for Mountain States. So we have a really good rodeo here in Larimer County on, the best ice and the blue arenas. I'm excited for that. And then the fair, August 2nd through the 6th, come see our kids, show their animals that they've been training all year, working with the whole year, ages 8 to 18, showing all sorts of livestock, sheep, goats. We have horse fair starting next week, actually, so it's a week before. We have sheep, goats, we have lambs, we have pigs, kind of a lot of the things you can think of. They have been working hard with their animals, so we're trying to get as many people out there to support them. Then we have our junior livestock sale August 7th, and we would like to invite all of you there to buy an animal or even help with an animal, or even just be there. It helps support the kids and show that they have people rooting for them who aren't their parents or their friends, kind of another person in Larimer County giving them support. So, yeah.
Is that all you have to share with us, Cora, at the moment?
Yes, I believe so. And if you have any questions, feel free to email us at lcfrroyalty.queen@gmail.com. I would love to answer any of the questions that you guys have concerning our fair, rodeo, or just anything about our county in general.
Great. Why don't we see if my colleagues have any questions or
Yes,
feedback for you? And then I think you're used to this, but we will likely need to pause after we've had our conversation to do a photo op.
Yes,
But
please.
you're okay with that, right?
Yep,
Yes.
of course.
So Commissioner Shattuck McNally, why don't you begin?
well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon or good morning. Nice to see you, Cora. I'm sure your schedule has been very busy. I wanted to just say I've seen you out a lot throughout the community over the year, whether it was at the Poudre Valley Rural Electric Breakfast. There's been a lot of opportunities where I've seen you have a booth and reaching out to community members and doing some volunteering. When you do that, you're helping pass things out. I wanted to commend you from coming to the 4-H building ribbon cutting. You were helping with some of the branding and helping some of the youth with some of the activities. So your activity and volunteering and work has been noticed by me as the rodeo board liaison. Yes, I'm very proud of that, us being medium-sized rodeo of the year last year. It was our 75th anniversary, and so I know this year is even going to be even better. We have some great updates to even the Rodeo 101 that was such popular last year. We're even going to have some improvements to that. So I look forward to the barbecue and just want to commend you for all the work that you've been doing. And, part of the Queen's program is just, as you do this journey from the beginning to the end, it's kind of a chance to take on this, really embark on this journey from becoming crowning queen and then passing off the crown, literally. It talks about learning and growing and kind of, expanding your horizons. So I'm curious, is there anything that you experienced or learned this year that you were not expecting, or that has kind of made a mark on your heart?
Well, there's just been a bunch that I've learned through being independent and going to these events on my own, to talking and being able to talk to people that are older than me, younger than me, just kind of whoever comes and talks to me, or going out to find people to talk to, just kind of inform them about our fair and our rodeo and all the stuff that we do for the committee and the community that we have in Larimer County, because it's a really awesome community here that it's really supportive and lifts people up a lot. So I'm really excited that I was able to be the Larimer County Fair and Rodeo Queen for 2024 and kind of be able to support our community. And I'm excited that I saw you at all those different events. It was awesome coming to talk to you, and I loved to seeing how much our commissioners are out in the community with the younger generation of our community, not just the people that are older.
Thank you, and I look forward to seeing you around the fair and rodeo, and well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Stevens.
Yeah, thank you for being here, Cora, and because I know you're everywhere, and I apologize. We, sometimes schedules do get mixed up, and we have those kind of busy schedules too, where that can happen. You're not sure where you're supposed to be in the next minute, and I think that speaks to how much you've done, outreach in the community. So, I know at our fair board, so I'm the liaison to the fair board, and so I see you every month with your reports. I mean, tell us, in a typical month, how many miles you drive. I think people might be interested in that.
Yeah.
Let's say, one of your big months. I mean, you were on the road, 1,500 miles or something like that. Is that right?
Yeah, something around there. I'm going to tally up all of my miles before we start fair to kind of get a rough estimate. But I know there's a couple months where we're going almost to 1,000 miles a month and just working hard and going far places and close places, just getting our fair and rodeo out into the world and showing people that there are other rodeos, and the Elizabeth or the Evergreen, which are amazing rodeos, but then also come down to ours August 2nd through the 6th.
Right. So she goes to rodeos and horsemanship clinics all over the state and really represents Larimer County fantastically at those spaces. So I really appreciate that. I don't think people know how much work is involved, right? I mean, they see you at the fair, and of course you're at the fair pretty much all day long as well. Commissioner Kafalis was reminding me, do you have the details for you'll be in the parade as well, is that right?
Yep, July 27th, I'll be in the parade as well with a bunch of other local royalties. So
okay.
It'll be good.
Wonderful. And then when does the judging happen for the new for your the person who will replace you?
We had our competition 2 weekends ago now.
Okay.
So we have our 2025 queen, Maggie Livingston. She is going to run the county beautifully as being the Larimer County queen. I'm excited to see all the places she goes and how she's going to take a little bit of herself into the community and kind of branch out a little bit, because I focused a lot on rodeos and kind of getting that outreach there. So she's going to focus a lot on FFA and the 4-H part of it, because she grew up doing a lot of 4-H a little bit more than I did. So I'm excited to see where she takes the program next.
Nice, very nice. Well, thank you for adding that. And I think the parade is this Saturday at 9 a.m. in downtown Loveland. So we will be there and you'll be there, and people should come out and celebrate with that. So thank you again for your work, and appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Thanks, Cora. I have 2 questions and just a couple of quick comments. First question is, you used an acronym, PRCA, and for those of us who are not rodeo nerds, can you tell us what PRCA stands for?
Yes, that's a great question. The PRCA stands for the Pro Rodeo Cowboys Association.
Great.
So just the big rodeos that you see, like Stetson Wright, or a lot of the big competitors that we see on the Cowboy Channel, or we see at the Larimer County Fair and Rodeo Queen, they'll be there, and it's the big guns of rodeo.
Great. And my second, thank you very much, Cora. My second question is, how much have you thought about, and what ideas do you have regarding your life journey, moving forward after being rodeo queen and graduating and moving on? Have you given that much thought?
Yeah, I have kind of a little plan set out. It's not set in stone yet, but I have a couple ideas. I still have my senior year of high school to go to, so I'll go to my senior year, and then after that I'm going to go to a junior college. I believe the one is Sterling NJC. They have a really good rodeo program there, a really good ag science program. So I think I'm going to do 2 years there, and then go down to Texas to Tarleton State University, where they have a really good rodeo program, really good ag program, and then just kind of live out in Texas and rodeo a whole bunch.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. I just want to express my appreciation for your leadership, for being out in the community, for inspiring other young folks to to give back and to be a constructive member of our community. So thank you for that.
Yes, thank you.
I'd like to see if our county manager, Lorenda, I bet she has some wisdom to share and kind words and words of affirmation.
Thank you, Commissioners. Cora, you are so well-spoken. You walked in here and you weren't flustered. You came right to the microphone. You represent the Fair and Rodeo so well in the county as a whole. Thank you for your travels, for all the things that you've done. I don't think people understand what being rodeo queen means. I think the Commissioner is exactly right. This is a working job. This is not just a title, and you have worked. So thank you for representing the county, and good luck in your senior year.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lorinda. And hopefully with all those miles traveled, you're getting some kind of mileage reimbursement, wear and tear on your car. So I think now it would be appropriate to pause the recording for a couple of minutes. And if you're okay with it, I'm sure my colleagues are, we'll do the photo.
Yes, please. That'd be awesome.
Thanks, Cora. Well done.
Thank
Great
you.
job. You're awesome.
Thank you, guys. You guys do so much, so I'm thankful to have been queen with you guys.
Welcome back, folks. We paused for a photograph with our wonderful and talented and smart rodeo queen. And Commissioner Stevens would like to say a couple more words about someone, before you leave, someone who is very instrumental in all of this work. Commissioner Stevens.
I just want to thank Stephanie Fancher English, who's here. She's been directing the Rodeo Queen program for many years, and she is just integral to making sure. She's a great role model for the young women that go through the program, and she's just been an exemplary fair board member who's been at every fair all day long. And so just really wanted to say thank you for your service to the Fair Board and to the Queen's Royalty Program. It's been an honor working with you, and I know that you're not going to stay with us too much longer. And so I really just wanted to take that opportunity to say how much service you provided to the county over the years. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Shattuck McNally.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Stephanie, I just want to thank you also. This is a lot of work, and you've done it for the last few years, and you've done it with such enthusiasm and supportive of the Queens. And being on the Fair and Rodeo Board is a volunteer position and takes a lot of dedication because we have a pretty outstanding Fair and Rodeo, and you've been really a key member of that. But also, you support it in lots of different ways that people may not see or recognize, and you're also a really big advocate and supporter throughout a lot of the activities throughout the county and and other organizations. So I just want to say thank you for being such a outstanding community member and just the work that you do for the Fair and Rodeo and the Queens program is probably not recognized to the full extent. So I just want to express my gratitude and thank you for all that you've done.
Me too. Exclamation point. And as we discussed earlier, I'm counting on you to make sure that on the final night of the rodeo, when we do the new rodeo queen coronation, that you make sure I get down there in time so I'm not rushing from my seat. Thank you. Have a good day, folks. Okay. That was wonderful. That was great. We'll move on to the next discussion item. Review of the auditor's results and acceptance of the 2023 annual comprehensive financial report. We have our director of the Department of Financial Services. Welcome.
Good morning, Commissioners. While I was waiting in the audience, several audience members turned to me and said, well, how are you going to follow the rodeo queen? I kind of wish I had a sash or a bolo tie, but unfortunately, I don't. My name is Carol Block. I have the privilege and responsibility of being the county's finance director. And Larimer County is committed to fiscal stewardship. And one of our stewardship responsibilities is the preparation of annual financial reports and also having those reports audited. And it takes a considerable amount of staff resources and expertise to put these reports together because they're a summary of all of the activities that happen during the year. And also there's a lot of rules called standards that govern how these statements are put together. And it's not all numbers, however. The reports also highlight some of the county's accomplishments during the year and our goals for the future. And this year, the annual financial reports feature pictures from our new facility, the Longview Behavioral Health Complex that opened recently. So it's kind of neat to be able to highlight some of those great accomplishments of the county. The statements are put together under the leadership of the county's controller, Lori Lopez. And I'm going to turn this over to Lori, who will talk a little bit more about the statements and introduce our auditors.
Thank you very much, Carol.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Lori Lopez, and I am the controller for the county. And before I introduce the auditors, I would like to introduce our newest member of the finance team, our accounting manager, Saras Muhammad. This was her first year in this process, and she's done a fabulous job, and you'll be seeing more of her going forward. Also, this is a team effort. This is not just a finance process. It's a team effort, and I specifically want to call out the collaboration that we have with Irene Josie and the Treasurer's Office. The auditors spend a fair amount of time with their group as well, and she and I and our groups and our teams have just worked together very nicely, and we've put together some really good processes. So I just wanted to highlight that. And with that, I there's also, without the help of the other departments, this just couldn't be done. It's like Carol said, it's all of the activity of the county for the past year, and that encompasses every single department. So we're one big team when it comes to putting this together. So I just wanted to highlight that as well. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our auditors from Reuben Brown, Matt Marino, and Max Habercorn. Thank you.
Thanks, Lori. Welcome, colleagues.
Thank you, Lori. I'm Matt Marino. I was your engagement partner. I've been your engagement partner the last couple of years. This is Max Habercorn. He's been your engagement manager. As always, it's a pleasure working with all the different departments and divisions of the county. They're always highly collaborative. Obviously, we call vowels and strikes. We're objective, but we also like to work with entities that have a good culture, and I would definitely say your county is one of those entities. So we appreciate being of service to you all, your citizens, and we'll go through the results of the audit, but overall, a good audit year. Max will go through the viewpoints document, which is really a summarization of the audit. We could, spend a couple hours going through the entire financials, but I don't think anybody would want to sit there and talk about that much detail. Go ahead, Max.
Thanks, Matt.
Excuse me. Thank you, everyone. I will be reading, just for your reference, from the viewpoints document. It does have our, logo and Larimer County, Colorado, December 31st, 2023 on the front. That's the first page. And then the next page says Auditor Communications. So just briefly, these are the things that we are required to communicate to you as auditors. It's required by our standards to make sure that the Board of Governance of whatever entity we do audit has this information at the end of the audit. And first part, we just want to say that we have issued 3 specific opinion letters or reports, as they're commonly called. One is the unmodified opinion on the financial statements. As always, the unmodified opinion is the best you can do. It is the A+ of the auditing world. It means we didn't have to change the structure of any of the audit opinion to suit amongst any issues that we could have found. So that is really, a testament to your finance team and everybody who works with them in compiling this document. The other 2 reports are specifically related to your acceptance and spending of federal funds. The first one is the Yellow Book Opinion, or the Governmental Auditing Standards Report, which talks about compliance with laws and regulations and controls over those. And then the other one is the Single Audit Report, as we call it, which is basically testing major federal programs for the year and providing opinions over the compliance with and controls over those projects. Again, with those, both of those opinions, there were no issues, no modifications to either of those opinions. Of note, one of the major things that did change this year, there was a new accounting standard. As Carol called out, accounting standards are the rules by which we follow to get to generally accepted accounting principles, or GAAP as we call it. The main change of that was GASB, or Government Accounting Standards Board, statement number 96, which involves subscription-based IT arrangements, or as we call them, SPITAs, which are basically contracts for software, for the lack of a better analogy. So what that standard made happen was that any long-term arrangement that you had, any arrangement longer than a year, needs to be capitalized and represented as a long-term liability. What you're going to be spending for that subscription over the course of the life of that subscription. That's offset with an intangible asset, which is an asset that's just there to basically balance out what the hypothetical liability is. So make sure that you're not rocking the boat. It's not listing one from one side to the other on the balance sheet. And both of those things will basically decrease over the life of those agreements. It did not have what we would consider a material or significant impact, but it was something that the county did choose to implement, and we found no issues in the implementation with that standard. Everything else, all other accounting standards and policies, were the same as last year. There were no significant unusual transactions, no instance where there was accounting policies that were outside of expected frameworks, and no significant unusual transactions. A couple of things that we do have to note is the management does, in the formulation of the financial statements, make estimates. And a few things that are related to those estimates that are significant to that process. A couple of those things are, one, basically the liabilities that you take in relation to your self-insurance activities, things that you're going to have to pay out for medical claims that are going to come, but you're not necessarily aware of them yet. Also, the estimate of the liability for the closure and post-closure of your landfill. That is an estimate right now. It's not necessarily known exactly how much or how little you'll have to spend on that, but it is a best guess. Also, the estimate of the long-term, release and SPITA receivables and liabilities. Those are estimates based off of whether or not the county may or may not elect to choose option years. And so the best guess was made on how many option years you believe you're going to take on those agreements, and that was based into those calculations. And then, of course, the county's estimates related to its modified infrastructure approach. The county reports its infrastructure on a thing called the modified infrastructure approach, which basically says, by analyzing the condition of your roads and bridges over the course of the year, you are allowed to, instead of capitalizing new payments for these capital, like the maintenance of it, it's just, we're not going to depreciate them at all, and we're just going to expense maintenance as incurred, which is different than how most other capital assets work. Is that capital assets take this a charge called depreciation, so their value decreases over time, and then you capitalize new replacements as it goes, and that would be the non-modified approach. But since the county does take that approach where they are doing an active assessment of the condition of the roads, they do not depreciate their infrastructure as you would normally expect, which is of course allowed. And then finally, there is a few disclosures that we do want to highlight. That's self-insurance, note 6, the closure and post-closure care costs of the landfill, which is note 7, the long-term liabilities in note 9, and then, of course, the commitments and contingent liability notes in note 15. Those are basically the notes that talk about those specific estimates. So they go along with it. They basically line up one for one. So... and then finally, we also have to report when we go through the process any corrected or uncorrected misstatements that were found as a part of the audit process. Basically, these were the adjustments that we were noted as we were going through the audit process to say, we found this. Is there anything that we need to do with this? And is it something that management needs to make or can make, but is not material enough that we would force it, and you would still get an unmodified opinion. Both of those entries that were notified as part of that process are included in Appendix A and Appendix B, and obviously since there was no modification to our opinion, there was no issues related to those journal entries that were made. The final other required communications that we have to make is that there was no circumstances that affected the form of our auditor's report. There was nobody who we had to consult with outside of the audit team, or there was nobody that the finance team had to consult with outside of us and themselves. No disagreements with management. It's a pleasure to work with Larimer County and everybody that we get to work with in this whole process. And then also no other findings or audit issues that we need to note. Finally, just to report very, very briefly, as getting back around to single audit, as I was talking about in the beginning, because the county does take in and spend more than $750,000 of federal funds in any given year, it's actually closer to $51 million every single year. They do have to have the single audit report, and on that single audit report, we have to test major programs. Those major programs that we did test this year was the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, also known as SNAP, previously known as food stamps, the Child Care Development Fund cluster, the Aging cluster, the Social Services Block Grant, the Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Funds, also known as ARPA, the WIOA National Dislocated Worker Grants, and the Epidemiological and Laboratory Capacity for Infectious Diseases. I say that 5 times fast. In combination, that is 7 major programs. That does seem, and it is, a lot, but it does cover roughly 1/3 of all federal funds that were expended by the county in a year, so it's a pretty good amount of coverage that we did test. That's pretty high. Finally, we do have to report that there was one control best practice improvement that was notified during the process. That is included in the single audit report. If there's any questions on that, we're happy to answer them, but all of the information, all of the continuing processes and updates to that is actually included in that page of the single audit report if you want to refer to it. And finally, there is one new standard that is coming out that is going to be applicable for the next year for the county. That is GASB Statement 101, and it relates to compensated absences. We've already had preliminary discussions with Lori and her team, and we don't believe that there's going to be a significant impact of this application next year. So it'll probably be a footnote to the financial statements, but you won't see numbers moving or changing significantly because of the impact of this. Are there any other questions that anybody has at this time about any of our communications, or maybe about the ACFR if you've had a chance to look through it at this point?
Yes, thank you very much, Max. Matt, is there anything else you want to add before we see what kind of questions we might have?
I think Max covered it well, so we'll turn it over for questions, and I'll wrap up if there's anything. But he
Okay.
covered everything we needed to cover.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Commissioner Shaddock McNally, do you have any questions or feedback?
I don't really have any questions because you guys are very thorough, and I know when I was chair last year, it was you asked a lot of great questions, and it's very interesting, this process, and I appreciate the great news and some of these more in depth of looking at all of these numbers, and I agree. But we have such an amazing team here at Larimer County, and the staff are just exemplary and do a great job. So this is great news. I just want to thank you for coming here today and sharing all this information. It's really important, and for the public to also hear this publicly, to hear and know that we're being transparent, accountable, and that we are being really good stewards of the public dollars and trying to make sure that there is other outside independent individuals and eyes looking at this. So thank you for this information today, and appreciate you being here in person.
Absolutely. Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Stevens, your questions or thoughts?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. So with the 7 major programs that you tested this time, do you kind of rotate those out every year?
Yeah.
Of which ones you do?
Yeah, absolutely. There's actually a prescribed formula that's issued every single year by the Office of Management and Budget by the federal government. There's a base calculation, but there's also factors that change every single year. You'll see a lot of consistency. Most of the time, you'll see the big programs, things like Medicaid, temporary assistance for needy family. Those are on effectively a 3-year rotation just because of the level they're at. But then there's also a requirement for us to look at what we call B programs, which are not quite as large as the main A programs, which are based on a pure dollar value level, but also things that they want us to look at that may be more smaller programs don't get hit as often, but may be more complex just because things change more rapidly at that level, and they may be transient grants that come up are made for a specific purpose that only last for a couple of years and then go away. Those things they want to make sure that those get hit while they're in place and not like all of a sudden it happened and then we can't select it for testing later on down the line. So I guess to answer your question in short form, yes, there is a specific method by which we're required to select, and there are certain grants that will get repeated more often than others, and normally that's just because of how much money it is in any given year.
It's really just a risk-based approach. There's a qualitative and quantitative part of that risk assessment. The quantitative is large, big programs get audited more often, but then there's also risky. Is it new? Is there a new team at the county that runs it? Is the guidance always changing? So, like, for example, the ARPA or the coronavirus relief, if you remember that, was new funding to almost everybody. The rules were changing all the time. That got audited every year and has been audited every year because that's the way the feds wanted it to be, if that makes sense.
That does. Thank you. And then just for the sort of estimations that we have to make with regard to the landfill or health insurance, those can change a lot depending on cost of materials and different kinds of requirements from the EPA. So that's something that gets figured every year, and with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you also consult with, experts in those fields. You get actuaries to help you out with, understanding how much do we believe we're going to have to pay out for health insurance or for risk, risk standards. There are, engineers and qualified people who talk about and look at the landfill and say, okay, we're thinking this is going to be, from what we've seen, this is what it's going to be. So those are adjusted based on the advice and counsel of, people who know what they're talking about, and then we take that, or the finance team takes that and translate it into numbers effectively, that information. So
Great, thank you. And then obviously a clean audit helps us with our credit worthiness and ability to get grant funding, and so just for the public, yes, it's good for us to show that we're spending this money wisely and that we're doing everything right. So good fiscal stewardship, and that in turn helps us, for the future in some of those getting grants or issuing bonds or whatever we want to do for in the future. Is that
Absolutely.
correct? Yeah. Thank you. Well, I appreciate the thoroughness. Thank you. It looks like there's always a new GASB kind of rule that we have standard that comes up almost every year. Is that right?
We started at like 50-ish when I started, and we're well over 100 and something.
Yeah. So, but it sounds like maybe that next year's won't be super significant and won't cause a lot of heartburn.
Yeah, the last 2 years have been pretty difficult from as far as implementations have been. So it does seem like the next couple of years there'll be, minor ones. So it's good for the finance.
Good for us, right?
Yes, exactly.
But don't fall asleep. If the GASB comes up with standards that you don't understand, you as stakeholders can also weigh in. We as a firm regularly weigh in on standards and say, we understand the merits, but is there benefit to this? They also like to hear from stakeholders, whether it be public, management, elected officials. They hear from us auditors plenty, so they sometimes like to hear from some of the other vested parties as well.
Great, thank you. Well, we'll be in touch with Carol and Lori and see if there's any time we need to weigh in. We're happy to do that. And then thank you thank you, Lori and Carol and Saras, is that right? So our new accounting, Saras, did I say that right? Saras, for all your work, and to our treasurer, Irene Josie, who's here in the audience today as well. Just appreciate all the work. I know this is not easy work to do, and having a clean audit is hugely important for the county. So we really appreciate and thank you for partnering with us on this.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Commissioner. I have a few things to say, a couple of questions.
Sure.
First of all, on the matter of standards, I think yesterday when we had an update regarding performance measures for the Department of Financial Services, I think Carol mentioned that at one point there were something like 57, and that I think she mentioned that the number of standards or rules had changed. And for a moment, I thought, well, maybe they've gone down, but I guess not. No, not at all. And if there is a way that we could perhaps contribute to the advocacy of trying to streamline or make things efficient, effective, please let us know. A couple of questions. I think they're relevant regarding, and hopefully my notes represent accurately what you stated. The modified infrastructure approach regarding roads and bridges.
Yeah.
A couple of questions related to that, sirs, and that is, when did we move to that approach rather than perhaps the more traditional approach that involves depreciation, and why, and what are the benefits of that approach versus the more traditional? Does that make sense?
I will have to turn that over to Lori because that's before our time. So.
Oh, gosh, we want to bring our controller back up here. Hello.
Hello. We implemented that standard in 2006. It stemmed from a GASB 34, which was issued in 2001, but they gave us 5 years to implement it because it was a big deal. So the benefit of it is that our road and bridge and engineering teams, they maintain our roads and bridges to a certain standard. And we believe this communicates that information out to the public, and that's a good thing. So that's a good benefit of this. One other aspect of it that really came to light was during the 2013 flooding. So normally with a capital asset, if it gets damaged, you have to write it off as impaired. We did not, because we're using the modified approach, because our intent is to maintain our roads and bridges at a certain level at all times. And so we didn't have to write down huge losses on these assets. So that was a huge benefit to us.
Thank you, Lori. You may want to stick close by, but that's your call. I think I have maybe 2 or 3 more questions. One is the reference to the 7 major program areas, and I think something like $51 million in expenditures of federal funds, representing 1/3 of the federal funds that we spend at the county level. What's the other 2/3?
So it'd be 1/3 of that 51 million. The 51 million is the total amount of federal expenditures for roughly for 2023. So we tested, under the major programs, it represented 1/3 of the expenditures for the year. So we basically did a sample of 1/3 of your federal expenditure programs. The other ones are related to other programs that are, pretty significant, but we don't test because they're on one of the off years, as I was talking about, like things like Medicaid, temporary assistance for needy families, workforce improvement. There's a lot of other, pieces that go into all over the county that we didn't test because, they weren't a part of our risk assessment.
Your various human services programs that we may not audit all of them in any given year, but we'll audit the ones that were deemed risky that they're due to be audited.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for clarifying that. My next question is, I think towards the end of your presentation, Max, you said something about there was a recommendation on a way to improve something or communication. I can't recall if you actually. Help me out there.
Control recommendation in the single audit report, perhaps that's what you were referring to. Yeah, so there is in the single audit report, there is an area where we are communicating a control recommendation. It's called Finding 2023-001. And it's in the single audit report, roughly 13 pages in. And it just talks about what we found and the information in relation to what that was and how the county's planning on remediating that. So would you like me to go into detail on that?
No.
Okay. Good.
Thank you. I have one last question, then a comment, and I believe this question might be more directed to Lori, our financial services folks, and that is, I think Carol in the beginning mentioned that the reports are not all numbers. There's quite a bit of narrative, and for example, there's a section dealing with Larimer County profile, some of the demographics and all of that, and then there's a reference to I hope I have this right, Lori, management and data analysis report. Could you speak to that? And I think one of the takeaways that I had was, what our overall assets liabilities are, that dollar amount, and annually what we need to pay the bills and that sort of thing, and maybe a little bit about the general fund balance. Oh, sorry,
While Lori's going back there, I'll kind of give background on the management discussion and analysis. So it's really there just like it sounds. It's management just discussing and providing analysis on the financial operations of the county. It's really hard to read this financial statement and understand everything in it if you don't have an accounting degree and you don't do it all the time. So the management discussion and analysis is a great place to start if you are a new user of governmental financials, but I'll turn it over to Lori to talk about it in a little more detail.
No, that's very helpful, Matt, and I think in our instructions, we were told to certainly read the letter, the submittal letter, and to try to read that management and data analysis section. Yes, Lori, please, a little bit more.
Yes. Okay, so the MD&A, as we refer to it, is a synopsis, basically, of the report. And it's, Matt and Matthew talked about this a little bit. This document is very prescribed. The only place where we can be a little bit creative is that first letter that talks about the profile of the county. It's called the transmittal letter. And that's where we have some leeway to be a little bit creative. Normally when you think about accounting, creative isn't one of the words, right, that you would use to describe it. As much as we like to think we're creative, no. But so the highlights throughout the MD&A are super helpful. The notes also provide a lot of explanation, but they're more technical. And one of the new upcoming GASB standards, I believe it's 103. It's not implemented yet, but it will allow us to use more plain language in the MD&A. And I think that will be a really big deal for our readership. So I'm looking forward to that change. I think it'll be helpful. Just kind of going over the financial highlights, the general fund's total fund balance was $102.6 million. And I want to explain that. So for financial reporting purposes, that's several funds combined together, right? This most significant one is the Disaster Recovery Fund, which when we're talking about budget and general daily operations, we have that separate. But for financial reporting purposes, it's not considered what you'd call a legal fund. It's a budgetary fund. And so we're required to report that together. There's a section in here, believe it or not, I don't have the page numbers memorized, so I should. But on page 63, there is, it's a budget and actual schedule of the general fund and then the disaster recovery fund separately. So you'll be able to see those two funds presented separately on page 63, which I think is helpful.
No, Laura, thank you so much. I just wanted to shed a little light on that part of the information. I think, and it's really encouraging that we're moving in the direction of making documents like that more understandable for regular folks. So thank you so much for accommodating my questions. I think my closing comments, and then I'll see what Lorenda has to share. And don't worry, we won't be doing a photo op with the auditors unless you unless you really want to. Where was I? So just to say again, thank you from all of us. And it's been mentioned a couple of times that one of the most important responsibilities we have as commissioners and the whole team is this idea of fiscal stewardship, and certainly working with our county treasurer, her office, and all the other relevant offices and departments. So fiscal stewardship is really, really, really important, because this money doesn't belong to us. It belongs to people who work really hard to make this money and pay their property tax, and those kinds of things. And I believe that being a good fiscal steward is one of our 6 or so guiding principles. I'll leave it at that, and perhaps Lorenda can expand on that. Thank you all very much. I appreciate all the good work. Lorenda, would you like to share any wisdom?
I was going to say exactly what you did. Being good stewards of county resources, especially the funds that the public entrusts us with, is one of our guiding principles. It's really critical to how we operate. It's wonderful to hear that staff is so cooperative and open, and you get whatever you need as quickly as you need it. I think that is the culture of the county. It's good to have that confirmed by you all from the outside who come in to work with us. We know that auditing is a team sport. It is not an individual event, and so I appreciate that so many folks across the county, from the treasurer, the folks in the finance office, and Saras, welcome to this lovely part of the team, right? Saras has joined this team from our solid waste team, so she's not new to the county, but new to this work in our central finance office, and it's great to have you participate here as well. Carol, Lori, our treasurer, Irene, thank you so much for the work you've done, and for any staff that may be listening who participated in this work. We know this is time-consuming, but it is really important. It's an accountability step for the public, and we rely on that, and we put this on the website. So we talked about some documents that are available. They'll be on the county's website as well for any member of the public who'd like to come see in terms of transparency. Yes.
Thank you, Lorenda. Thank you, colleagues. I almost forgot, but I believe there's a motion on the table, and so I think we've had a good conversation. Commissioner Shadrack McNally, would you be kind enough to offer the motion, please?
I move to approve the 2023 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report.
Thank you. That is a proper motion. Colleagues, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That passes 3-0. Well done, team.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thank you for your support.
Do you want the photo op? No. Just kidding. Okay. Thanks for the remaining folks, very patient. We'll now move on to the next item. We have our county attorney, and this is regarding a settlement. Oh, of course, forgive me. Our settlement agreement, and the person who has come to the podium will certainly introduce themselves and explain what we're here to talk about.
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. I'm Rebecca Everett, Community Development Director, and I am joined today by Frank Haug with our County Attorney's Office, who can jump in if there are any questions that start to stray into the legal territory. Really excited to be presenting this resolution to you today, or this this item today. This is a request that the Board of County Commissioners sign an agreement with Prospect Energy, which is one of the oil and gas operators that currently operates within Larimer County. The purpose of this agreement is to ensure that all of the wells that are owned, oil and gas wells that are owned by Prospect Energy, are safely closed and cease operations. This is the culmination of a multi-year collaborative effort between Larimer County and the city of Fort Collins to hold Prospect Energy accountable for air and water and other pollution activities that have been occurring across the portfolio of wells that are owned by Prospect Energy. Prospect is the operator of 49 oil and gas wells in Larimer County. 10 of those sit within Fort Collins city limits. And jointly, staff and elected officials of both the city and county for the past 4 years have been putting pretty consistent pressure on the state agency responsible for overseeing oil and gas operations, the Energy and Carbon Management Commission, the ECMC. And we recently received some very good news from the ECMC that the agency has entered into a stipulated order finding violation with Prospect Energy that would require the closure of all of their wells and would revoke Prospect's license to operate in the state of Colorado. So would prevent Prospect from continuing to operate any of their current wells or operate anytime in the future within the state. As going a little bit back in time, as you are aware, we've had significant issues with violations at the Krause facility and the Fort Collins tank battery site, which is near the Hearthfire subdivision, which is within the city of Fort Collins. And there was a compliance order that was issued in February of this year that would require payment and penalties for the air quality violations at those facilities. The stipulated order finding violation, the order that was just issued on July 10th by the ECMC, requires additional penalties and additional compliance or revocation of Prospect's license. And so the order requires either the payment of $1.7 million in penalties or revocation of the license. The wells that Prospect owns have very low financial viability, and we have been engaged in conversations to try to get those wells closed because they are not financially viable. And Prospect Energy as a company does not have the financial resources to pay the level of fines and penalties that have been levied against them by the state agencies, and those penalties are very warranted. But the alternative that Prospect Energy has is to enter into a bankruptcy proceeding that could result in no penalties being paid. And so the county and the city have been working together to approach Prospect Energy and work on an agreement that allows for and ensures the safe closure of wells, removal of equipment, and exit of Prospect Energy from our community in a way that provides the greatest benefit to our residents, our community members, and our taxpayers, and helps to hold Prospect Energy accountable in the greatest way possible. It's not realistic to expect that those fines that have been penalties that have been levied by the state will ever be paid. And so instead we have entered into an agreement with Prospect Energy that best protects the county's interests. So within this agreement, there are really four key agreements that I want to mention, and obligations of Prospect Energy, and then the county offers some obligations for ourselves in exchange. And I'll mention that this agreement before you today is an agreement specifically between Larimer County and Prospect Energy. The city of Fort Collins is not a party to that agreement. The city is working on a separate agreement with Prospect Energy that would include many, many similar terms to their agreement. So first, this agreement would require the shutting in of all of Prospect's wells within 7 days of the effective date. We have heard from Prospect Energy that they have already done this. They've already shut in their wells. We have not confirmed that yet, but that's the first obligation. Second is a third-party inspection for leaks at all of those well facilities. So leak detection and reporting to understand which of those facilities after that has been shut in is currently leaking, if there are any leaks, and to ensure that those are immediately reported to the state and dealt with. Third, there was a recent spill on an adjacent property to the Hearth Fire tank battery site. The property is referred to as the Country Club Reserve subdivision, which is in the city of Fort Collins. There was a flow line that ruptured and caused water quality pollution impacts. So the third obligation is to complete the remediation, complete the cleanup of that spill on that site within 30 days of the effective date of the agreement, before Prospect walks away from the property. Fourth is an obligation to remove all equipment from the Krause facility and the Fort Collins tank battery site. We do not want the unused equipment to be sitting on properties within the county, creating an attractive nuisance or causing additional impacts to residents or property owners in that area. So within 90 days of the effective date of the agreement, all of that equipment would be required to be removed. In exchange, the county's obligations are to first allow Prospect to remove all of their equipment, salvage any equipment that they have in the county. There is no benefit to the county of having any claim on that equipment or doing anything with it, and in fact would prefer to just have it leave these properties. Second, the county would agree to request that the Energy and Carbon Management Commission waive the fees that were levied in February, that were assigned in February, of the fees of $337,000-ish, a request to waive those fees that would otherwise be assessed to Prospect Energy. Third, the county would agree to not oppose the stipulated order finding violation that the ECMC has issued. So the county does have the ability to challenge that finding, challenge that order, and under this agreement, the county would not contest that and would allow those two ECMC to decide on those two options, either levying the $1.7 million in fees or allowing Prospect to just cease operations and remove their license as an operator. Again, as staff and our legal counsel believe that this approach, this agreement, is in the county's best interest. It helps Prospect Energy avoid bankruptcy, which allows for the faster plugging and abandonment of the wells that are in our jurisdiction and in the city of Fort Collins jurisdiction. Further obligations by the county would not pursue violations of any local regulations that Prospect Energy may be in violation of right now. And the county would also pursue withdrawal of the Rule 211 petition. So this was a petition that the county had filed against Prospect Energy with the ECMC, requesting that certain wells be plugged and abandoned because they are no longer viable producing facilities. So the county would pursue withdrawal of that request, would request that fees be waived, and would support the stipulated order finding violation with the state. So I'd like to see what questions you all have, but before that I want to to just mention two more things. First, I've emphasized the partnership with City of Fort Collins, and want to just mention again that pollution does not follow political and jurisdictional boundaries, and the level of partnership that has occurred between the city and county on this issue has been incredible and very successful. It's because our two communities have come together to put pressure on the state agencies that we are at this point of potentially eliminating this operator from our community, which is a benefit to our residents. Finally, I want to offer kudos to all of the staff who have been supporting this effort for many years. As you know, Matt Lafferty is our local government designee for oil and gas matters. He would have loved to have been here talking about this today. On the City of Fort Collins side, Cassie Archuleta has been Matt's partner in advocating and working together. We have had incredible support from Leah Schneider in our health department, who is the expert in air quality issues and has spent many days and hours out on these sites observing violations and providing the technical expertise that's needed to support these conversations. Our attorney's office, in particular, Frank Haug, has provided just expert guidance and counsel on these matters, and it's navigating these state agency processes is complex and takes a lot of patience and persistence. And then finally, we have external outside legal counsel in Matt Sura, who has been supporting both City of Fort Collins and Larimer County for all of these years, and really puts in all of the work to make sure that we are making the filings on time and we are pursuing the right actions and that we are following all the correct avenues to put pressure on the right entities to best support the interests of our residents. So thank you, and I'm happy to answer questions that you may have.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. Well done. A very articulate summary of the settlement agreement, and appreciate that you've acknowledged all the various folks who have been more than instrumental in getting us to this place. Commissioners, any questions, comments, observations? Who would like? Oh, Commissioner Sheddock McNally, I'm sorry.
Are we looking for questions, or can we make our comments as well?
I think you can combine questions.
I have a couple quick questions, and then just like to make a statement. And but first, thanks for being here, and that was really well summarized for the public to hear. This, it's very complex, and as you say, it's been years in the making. And when we first came on the board, and in 2021, that was one of the first things we pushed for, was hiring Matt Sura and having the specialized attorney as we updated and expand our oil and gas regulations. And so he's been a great partner since that day. It's something that we have been focused on and asked staff to kind of keep the pressure on and look at these, and especially for the members of that community that live so close and that have been complaining about smells and headaches and health impacts. So I appreciate this so much. And it was really great that you listed Leah Schneider and Cassie and Matt Lafferty and Frank and Matt Sura. And also want to mention Leslie Ellis, because she was at that time your position and really pushed hard on that and was very instrumental in helping kind of guide those regulations and that work with Matt Sura as we went forward. And also, Lorenda was Assistant County Manager Linda Hoffman, supported that and helped us find all of that. So it started back like in 2021. We've been working very hard on this. So my first question, and then I have some other comments, is so all of this is going to happen before the hearing in August. Do we know when that hearing is? And so the ECMC knows that this is coming, and so they understand the agreement, and all this will happen before that hearing in August, correct? The 90 days and the action, and they've already shut down the wells. So that's the second part of that question. When will we go out and verify that?
Yeah, so a hearing date has not yet been set by the ECMC for the stipulated order finding violation. So we don't know the time frame yet of when that will be set. The ECMC is aware that these agreements, that we're working through these agreements, both city and county with Prospect Energy. Ultimately, they reserve the right to schedule those hearings at whatever time works within their agendas, and they're not bound by any of the time frames that are in these agreements. Ultimately, it's their decision whether to approve that stipulated order finding violation. So we can't control whether that hearing might happen inside or outside of the 90-day period. But our goal would be to accomplish as much of what's in the agreement here with Prospect Energy prior to a hearing occurring.
Thank you for that. And about the second part of my question about verifying that they've already shut them in.
Yes, thank you for that reminder. Verifying that they've shut them in. Once the agreement is signed, if it is signed, then we would work to coordinate on hiring a third-party inspector to go out and making sure that our staff can go out to observe those inspections as well. So we haven't coordinated that yet, but that would be a top priority once the agreement's signed.
Great. So I just want to say, about the economic responsibility. I know a lot of folks might be concerned that, there's some waiving of that financial responsibility. But as you stated, they could declare bankruptcy and then abandon these wells, and that would be on the backs of the taxpayers. So I think it's really important that Prospect Energy takes financial responsibility for the safe closure of their wells, and it should really benefit our community more than fines or bankruptcy. So I want to make that point. By advocating for this Prospect Energy, by us advocating for this, Prospect Energy should use its money to close these wells safely and as quickly as possible, which is better for our community than paying fines. And I think it's important that, there is that risk of them going bankrupt, and we just like to see these closed and safely cleaned up and no further violations of polluting the air and so on. So allocating resources towards a responsible closure is really a win-win, especially for our community. And it will help us avoid future economic environmental costs in the long run. So I think the quicker we clean this up and move on, it could stretch out for a longer period of time of cleanup and closure. And this approach ensures that the burden of the closure does not fall on the taxpayers, if I keep saying, because that does happen in other parts of the state. And it still really holds this company accountable, because they have to do this within a certain time frame. And so I really feel that, this way the taxpayers won't have to pay for the closure, and we are still holding this company responsible for their violations and for, the continued continued violations that we have seen as we've been on the Board of County Commissioners. And I really believe this is in the best interest of our community. For Prospect Energy to allocate its resources toward the safe closure of these wells. And I really want to advocate for this outcome at the hearing, because for them not to be able to operate any longer in the state because of this continued track record of violations and these spills. And the one recently that was had some water impacts, I think it's really important. And I think I know the final decision of that rests with the state, but I just want to state publicly, I hope that they'll move quickly and decisively to take away that license for our state. And I want to just again express my gratitude to Matt, Sir, and Frank, and Matt Lafferty, and Les, all of you. This has taken a lot of work, and you guys have stayed very steadfast and keeping this pressure on and trying to find a way to hold this company accountable, but also have a quick and stewards of taxpayer money closure of this site. And I want to thank you all for your work and your efforts here, because this is an innovative and very exciting piece of news and action. And I'm very excited to see that we're to this point, because it's something that I hope to see and I didn't think we'd see it for a while longer. And to see it now is just extraordinary. I want to thank City of Fort Collins for their partnership, and also the ECMC, because this is all collaboration to do what's best for our community and for the taxpayers. And so I just wanted to state also that. And so thank you, Rebecca, for being here today. Thank you, Frank, and I can't wait to see that site cleaned up. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Stevens.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Rebecca. This truly is a good news item. And I know our staff and city staff has been working on this for years. And, and I know our neighbors and friends who live in those areas, and a lot of our community advocates have been also pressuring for something to be done about these violations and the problems with prospects. So I'm thrilled with this outcome, and I really think it was definitely a team effort. Certainly, the partnership with City of Fort Collins was crucial to be able to make this happen. So we actually had a question that came through from a resident who's watching, and she was and Commissioner Shattuck McNally spoke to this a little bit, but this particular person was asking, did Prospect Energy have enough funds to close and plug and reclaim 49 wells in all sites?
So this agreement would not require Prospect Energy to fully plug and abandon and reclaim all of their facilities, but instead ensure they are all safely shut in. So this would not result in the full plugging. The wells would, if the stipulated order is approved by the ECMC, those wells would move into the orphan well program and could be plugged and abandoned through that program, or there could be the potential to accelerate efforts to plug and abandon using local funds or grants or other funding sources to plug those that are of greatest risk or high priority, in addition to working with the state's orphan well program. So this agreement would result in them being shut in so that there are no ongoing leaks at the moment, but it would not be full reclamation.
Thank you for explaining that. I think that's really important for the community to understand that, we'll continue with this process after this happens, but certainly a very good news for our residents. And we had a unified approach with the City of Fort Collins in sort of tackling this issue. You mentioned Cassie Archuleta there again, who worked with us, but I think, there are many other staff members, too many to mention, and also elected officials at the city that really wanted this outcome as well. So by joining forces, we were really able to leverage our resources, and that is important because this kind of work it's very detailed, and it takes many years, as we've seen. And so it was really just wanted to highlight that collaboration, and really grateful that the city worked with us too, because there are a lot of city residents that are affected by this. There's wells in both the city and in the county, as was mentioned. So just thank you again to staff that were mentioned, Frank and Matt Lafferty. It was kind of a labor of love for him. I think Matt Suro has been a great addition to the team, and certainly your work as well, Rebecca. Your leadership was valuable. So I'm surprised there aren't more people here to celebrate with us. Or the press, because I think that this is just something that we're really proud of. And, we came into these positions saying that we wanted to clean up these situations so that our residents would be healthier and have better, cleaner air. And we've been able to accomplish that with both the restrictions on the oil and gas that we put in place, and now this outcome. So I'm very thrilled with this, and thank you.
And Commissioner Stevens, just so you're all aware, if the agreement is signed today, we do plan to issue a press release today that gets that information out more broadly to the community.
Excellent. So I'm sure that our friends and neighbors in Larimer Alliance and other folks will be thrilled about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. I have one question, then a couple of comments. And my question is, what happens? So in terms of the county obligations, two of the provisions include request to the EC, or whatever, the Energy Carbon Management Commission. Oh, thank you. that they would waive the $337,000 penalties and then waive the $1.7 million in fines. What if they don't do that? What happens to this agreement?
Frank, do you want to respond to that? I'm not
Thanks, Rebecca.
as
Thank you,
expert as
Frank.
Frank is there.
Well, and just to clarify, they're not waiving anything. Their recommendation is actually to suspend it. And so the idea is that instead, the suspension is sort of conditional on them following through with all of these things. And then if they don't follow through with all of those things, then the potential is that those fines would kick back into place. And so that's the idea. I think suspend is a better word than waive, because that's what I think the outcome is hopefully going to be, is that the fines would be suspended on the condition that you follow through with the obligations of getting everything shut in appropriately.
That's very helpful. I would point out that the language in the agreement uses the word waived. So just something to keep in mind. Thank you. So my comments, like my colleagues, are that I think this is somewhat historic. It's been a group effort, and the area that I'd like to emphasize is how important this settlement agreement is regarding safety, public safety, and environmental health. Our priority as a county is to try to help with the long-term safety of our residents, and certainly environmental protection. Our main goal is to keep folks safe and protect our environment from any danger, potential hazards. By advocating in this way, we're getting the job done, focusing on closing the wells as best as we can, and eventually reclaiming that land and capping. And I think this speaks to the commitment that the county has regarding the residents, and we want to make sure that everyone has access to a good quality of life, community health, well-being, resiliency. So I think this is really important, keeping our neighborhoods free and safe from potential hazards that may come from these types of operations, especially if they're not done properly. And there clearly have been violations, as you stated, Rebecca, all manner of things. And I guess finally the county, we've been pushing this for a number of years, and frankly, it is our Department of Health and Environment that was instrumental in getting the state Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment and their folks actually to take some action. So I think that should be noted as well. Tom Gonzalez, our Public Health Director, Leah Schneider was mentioned, and other folks. So well done, team. And Lorenda, do you want to add anything before we go to the motion?
I'll just say this has been a long time coming, and so it's hard. It's been more of a marathon than a sprint, I think, to use a colloquialism. You all, throughout the process, though, have listened to the community. You have given clear direction to staff. There has not been any point in time when there was confusion, and so while we've thanked the staff, it's really important to thank you all for the work you've done here and how you've advocated for residents across the county, and for this partnership with the City of Fort Collins. So I want to give you all a lot of credit as well. You've been very consistent in your messaging, both to the public and to staff, so thank you for that.
Thank you, Lorenda. It's nice to get a little bit of credit now and then, I suppose. Well, good presentation, good clarification, good discussion. I'll make sure that I read the agreement very carefully before I sign it, and then we'll get the word out. With that, I'm going to ask Commissioner Stevens, I think it's your turn to offer the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to approve the settlement agreement between Larimer County and Prospect Energy, LLC.
Thank you. That is a proper motion. Any further comments, discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That passes 3-0. Well done. Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Frank, and everyone else. All right, we have one more discussion item. We have a few folks in the back that have exercised great patience. I would like to welcome Justin, who can introduce himself, and give us an update on some other important matters. The county does not deal with fluff. We deal with, frankly, very important matters. And I'm always impressed when you get dressed up for your presentations.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Commissioners and County Manager. Justin Weitzel, Emergency Services Director for the Larimer County Sheriff's Office. So as I was here last week, a little bit earlier, but the same day, told you I'd come back and give you an update on the current fire conditions. So I prepared a packet for you, and I'll go through that packet and just kind of walk through the indices and some of the other data that I and the Sheriff's Office look at to determine what the fire conditions are like throughout Larimer County. And so what I did on the very first page is included the fire danger indices that we look at that you have seen the last couple of years. I included last week and kind of where we're at this week. As you can see, the numbers, the 1,000-hour field moistures, the energy release component. The green means we're in good shape. The yellow means we're in fire restriction criteria, and the red mean we're in fire ban criteria. So if you look at last week compared to this week, we've actually improved. One is the weather trend, the ERCs, the energy release component, the live and dead fuel moistures basically, and that's a really simplified version of what the energy release component is. But that improved. The average spread component up in the plains has improved. The only thing that changed or elevated was the planning level, the Fort Collins planning level, and that was based on the potential is what was said at the last meeting, and I don't know, the Sheriff's Office didn't agree with the idea to bump from planning level 2 to 3. We stated that, but the other agencies said because there's potential that they wanted to increase to planning level 3. We haven't seen fire activity or fire conditions change to meet that level, but that's why the change there. The next 2 pages are the forecast for the next 7 days. So you can see there's a below 6,000 foot elevation and above, so 6,000 to 9,000 foot elevation. I didn't include the above 9,000 foot. It's typically pretty close to the 6,000 to 9,000 foot elevation. As you can see, there are some thunderstorms predicted in the coming days. Again, with some good chance of rain, and I'll get into the monsoonal moisture that's in the packet later. So if we skip to page 4, which is the recent fire activity. So between last Tuesday and today, we've only had 1 fire in Larimer County. That was a lightning strike fire yesterday that started with lightning storms that rolled through. We were able to get on. Livermore Fire Department actually were the first to respond with 1 firefighter, and he was actually able to contain it by himself because it wasn't moving. Actually, I think one of our deputies was first on scene and realized it wasn't moving anywhere, and Livermore Fire showed up soon afterwards and was able to put it out quickly. So easily contained, only got to about 30 to 40 feet in area. The next one is the drought conditions. That has stayed the same because they haven't updated. They just updated it, but it stayed the same. Typically, it takes a little bit for the drought conditions to change either better or worse. But that has stayed the same since I was here last week. The 7-day rainfall. So if you look at how much rainfall we've had from last Tuesday to today, we've actually had some pretty significant rain in parts of Larimer County, but I think the thing to look at, we obviously don't have any gauges up in the very northwest part of the county. But for majority of the county, we do have rain gauges, and over 90% of the county has received a good amount of rain. Some areas have received over 1 inch of rain for this time of year in 7-day time period. That's a significant amount. So the rain has been very helpful, and that's why you see from the first page a change in the fire indices, because of that rainfall has helped with the fire danger. The next page is the temperature outlook for the 30-day. The problem with the 30-day is it's just for July, so I also included the seasonal temperature outlook, which is August through September. So it's supposed to be above, is what they're predicting, above average temperatures. So they're not, doesn't really define what above average is, but we'll continue to have above average temperatures. The next page is the precipitation outlook for 30-day and also August through September. Actually, even August through October. I messed up on the top there. August through October. But you can see below normal precipitation. So obviously we'll see the fire indices change, but right now we're pretty favorable. If you turn to the 7-day significant fire outlook, there's the northern Colorado mountains, the northern Front Range foothills, and the northern Front Range mountains. So it's basically, again, that below 6,000 feet, which is the plains, Wellington, Fort Collins, 6,000 feet, which is the foothills, the Front Range Mountains is considered 6,000 to 9,000, and then northern Colorado Mountains is the 9,000. So as you can see, there's little to no risk for a couple days, and then low risk for the rest of the time for majority of Larimer County. So that is, now again, that's not me saying that we're not going to have fires. It's just saying that the potential for a significant fire is really low. So the next page is the monsoonal moisture, which I talked about that I would get to. As you can see, Colorado's kind of in the center there, and Larimer County is obviously at the top of that, but it looks like we're supposed to have some pretty good precipitation in the next bit. They're saying it'll start decreasing early this week, and then it'll get a little bit more, and that's kind of what we saw in the forecast. Is Saturday we're supposed to have 60% chance of rain, which is in Colorado, as we all know, 60% is a pretty good chance. So the monsoonal moisture is still kind of hanging around, but they do see that decreasing over the next few weeks. The last page is, again, those that are in fire restrictions. That has not changed since last week. The U.S. Forest Service, which is not represented on this map, is also still in fire restrictions, and those other counties, same as last week, are still in fire restrictions. The sheriff is still recommending to not put in fire restrictions at this time. And we continue to monitor conditions, and that's where we sit. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Justin. Colleagues, do you have any questions? Commissioner Shattuck McNally.
Justin, appreciate as always just the thoroughness and all the information you brought, and certainly being up. I was up at 10,000, 8,000, 7,000 feet over the weekend, and lots of precipitation. Everything's very green up there, and as you come down, it gets drier. But I just want to say I appreciate you coming back this week, and certainly seems like we're in a good spot still. And I just want to thank you for just coming back and bringing all this information again, and just keeping us apprised of all the conditions. And I'm glad that our conditions are staying, stable or a little bit improving. And I'm not sure if you feel like you should come back in 2 weeks then, or we just kind of wait and see. Do you want to just come back when you think things are starting to change again? Because I'm sure August is going to look a little different. So I'm just curious what your recommendation is on that.
No, that's an excellent point. So thank you. And that was going to be a question for you all. I'm happy to come back here to help guide and assist you all making decisions. And so whatever works best for you all, I'm happy to come back in 2 weeks, or I'm happy to continue. No matter what we say here today, I will continue to monitor conditions, and I'll make sure to schedule appropriately so I get in front of you before we hit those conditions. But if you want update in 2 weeks, I'm happy to come back. So it's really up to the commissioners on how you would like to proceed with that.
Since we seem to approve this week, I have confidence and trust in you that if you start to see things shift or change, or feel you need to come forward, I think that would be prudent. Just to, also, you were very busy and you guys are doing a lot of training and trying to be ready, so I want to be also mindful of that. And I'm sure you can be in touch with our county manager if you think things need to move faster. So I'm comfortable with that. I don't know where my colleagues stand, but you've kind of alleviated some of my concerns this week. Thank you.
Yeah, my opinion is that trust your judgment. You can make the call when you think it's appropriate to come back. I know we have in mid-August we have the IEMC training, and maybe we'll get together after that. But again, I think you can make that. You folks can make that call. That is my opinion, Commissioner.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, if you see things start to change, and I think you're usually proactive about that anyway, you would be coming anyway. But yeah, I think it's a lot of information, and I appreciate that you really follow state statute and that you're not going to act before you feel like it's really needed. Because I do think you're right. It sends a confusing message to our partners and the community. So, but I appreciate all the detailed information. It's a lot to look at. So, but yeah, please come back when you see things change and you feel like we need to make some different decisions.
No, I appreciate that, and I will plan on following up at the appropriate time.
Justin, I have a quick comment and then 2 questions, please.
Sure.
My comment is appreciation for acting on a suggestion that we made last week and probably collaborating with your public information officer. I believe there was a press release that went out in a, quote, proactive way to inform the public. I think, to me, that's just as important. So if you all think that we should be sending out a message between now and then, that's your call. I just think we want to be as proactive as possible. So that's my comment. Thank you. Well done. I think that's a great thing, and we should try to be as consistent or, what makes sense with that. My 2 questions are this. Number 1, what's with all the smoke? Where's the smoke coming from?
So it's a combination of California and Canada.
Utah?
And Oregon. Utah has a few fires. The California, Oregon, and Canada have a abundance of fire and are having a different time controlling them. We actually, part of our initial attack module went out with the suppression module to California and are in Northern California fighting fires. And so we brought in additional initial attack module folks to backfill behind them. So we are staffed up again, but we do have a component of our folks out in California fighting fires, trying to help get rid of the smoke.
Yeah, the air quality index was atrocious, and I think there was a message that it's unsafe for people that are in health risk categories.
Yeah, it's pretty bad out there. I was just looking at the cameras that we have in the hills, and there's a significant amount of smoke all throughout the county.
And my second question, if I may, is I think we've all determined that there's no longer a certain fire season in Colorado. It's pretty much a year-round thing. Keeping that in mind, Justin, what are a couple of key things we've done to adapt to that current reality?
No, that's a great question, and I appreciate it. So the biggest thing we have done is brought on the initial attack module, or what has always been an initial attack module for the sheriff's office. Has looked very different over the 26 years that I've been here. But one of the big changes is we made it full-time 2 years ago. So those 8 folks are full-time, year-round employees because they do respond to fires. We continue to respond to fires in December and January, February, every month of the year. So having them full-time has made a huge difference that we can still respond where typically the federal governments, they don't have as many employees or hardly any employees to respond to fires. So we're able to supplement that with our folks. And then the other big things, we're doing a lot here in Larimer County, but we're trying to bring in AI, the artificial intelligence cameras into Colorado to detect smoke so we can see them year-round. Obviously, we don't have as many people in the backcountry in the winter, so having cameras that can detect that smoke and send us a notification is huge to have that. And then we do training with the fire departments and all the agencies throughout Larimer County to make sure we're all on the same page and have annual meetings to talk about what resources we have at the beginning and even at the end of the year, into the calendar year, to know what everybody has available.
Great. Thank you, Justin. And in closing on my part, if I may offer another suggestion, and that is when you mentioned about the artificial intelligence, the AI, and some of the research that you all are doing. And I think it was Captain Tim Tim Keaton that brought it to our attention that you're working on that. So I appreciate that. My suggestion is that sometime, I don't know exactly when, we'll be getting an update from our IT support services from Mark and his crew in terms of how we're using AI currently. I'd want to make sure there's communication between your shop and the overall shop, and maybe you could provide us an update or working with Mark, regarding what you're thinking or what you're looking at for AI, how it might help with the fire.
No, it's a great point.
Just a thought.
My plan is to hopefully, I have a lot of pieces and parts going on at emergency services between the Wildfire Partners program, our paramedic program, and fire. So I would like to come. I just haven't figured out on my schedule how to get that in there, but a work session to give you an update on some of that high level stuff that we're looking at. AI being a big part of that because it's also going to help us with mitigation. Which I know Commissioner Shattuck McNally you'd be very interested in, but I'm working with a particular company that does a lot with mitigation and AI, so I'm super excited about that. But they also do prediction and kind of those areas where we should be focusing our efforts. So a lot of great news coming, and I'm trying to collect it all so I can come to you and present it in a formal fashion and really be diligent about where I'm heading and what we're looking at. So.
Great. And again, the consideration is if the timing works and, whether or not there's any logic to coordinating the presentations, maybe we would have an hour work session. Here's what we're doing over here. And in this area of emergency services, this is what we're looking at as well. Just a thought. That's all.
No, that's an excellent point, and I'll definitely work with Mark Pfeffinger and his folks to figure out the best way to tackle that problem and make sure that we use the best use of your time because I know you have a ton of meetings. So,
yes, Commissioner.
Justin, you and I have been working on this for a couple of years with the GIS thing. So I know it's moving, and the Forest Health Tracker is live. I'm heading out here shortly to the Forest Health Council, and so I will get those links because the links I had 2 weeks ago are not public yet, but they'll be public tomorrow morning. So you might, if you want to tune in and look at some of that talk, and so that will be one of the first items in the morning. And so I'm glad that we're still progressing on our portion of that, and I look forward to catching up with you because I know we've been trying really hard to get this ball rolling, and I want to thank you for your leadership with that and appreciate you collaborating with me and partnering, and along with Josh Roberts and others. It's been, I think it'll be really an essential tool for you all and for the county and for our partners that are working very hard to do this mitigation work and reforestation work as well. So
no, I totally agree. And I appreciate your support. It's been instrumental in us moving forward. And I think bringing in artificial intelligence to help with the mapping is even going to elevate Larimer County and protect our communities even better than we do now.
one suggestion I have is, Excel has that fire prevention plan, and they've been looking to install some cameras as well. So hoping we're coordinating or at least discussing and talking with them as well. And I believe they contacted our community planning department. So that might be a great way to connect and find out what that status is, because I know they were trying to get a couple of cameras up. So I would like to see if we can partner there too, just to make sure we're not duplicating efforts. So, but I agree. And if there's some areas up in the northwest corner you think would be great to go check out in the next month or two, I'd love to. I haven't been up to that corner since the snow melted, so I'd love to get up there and check out some of that work. I'm going up to Glenwood to check out a critical infrastructure and restoration work and mitigation work up in the No Name Trails. That's where I'm headed here in just a few minutes. But
perfect.
I want to make sure you get to see that Forest Health Tracker. So
I appreciate that. And then just to respond to the Excel thing. So I am in direct communications with Excel about the cameras. They are wanting to put 6 cameras in Larimer County, and so we're coordinating on where those will go and making sure that those notifications that come from those cameras go to the appropriate people and not to Excel, as we've talked with them and the camera companies. If it goes to Excel, that's just slowing the process down. And Michael Hayden, who's their wildfire expert from Excel, was the first incident commander on the Cameron Peak Fire when we brought in the national team. So him and I have a really good relationship, and so that helps when we're working with Excel trying to bring in these cameras. So we've built a good relationship with Excel and are working hard on the camera piece.
Excellent, great news, and I'm not surprised to hear you have another great partnership, and I've been talking with them as well, so I'm really glad to hear that. So thank you again for being here today and the great information and the work that you're doing. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good day, colleagues. Well, we have gotten through our discussion items. We now move on to County Manager update. What do you got?
Thank you. I'll keep it very brief, Commissioners. I did meet with two of our elected offices last week, both the sheriff and the treasurer. We meet periodically just to make sure that we're all on the same page and that we have good coordination. I also met with Kelly DiMartino, the city manager of the city of Fort Collins, to collaborate and to coordinate our efforts. We have several things we're working on that it's really important that we maintain these good relationships. And then finally, along with you, Commissioner Kafalis, we attended the Fort Collins, Poudre School District, Larimer County liaison meeting. Those are always very helpful just to understand what everyone is working on and where they are in those processes. So I will leave it at that to save a little time.
Thank you. Thank you, Lorinda. Well, are there any questions or feedback for Lorinda regarding her update? I always appreciate the liaison meetings that we have with Poudre School District and the city of Fort Collins. Another opportunity to communicate and cooperate. All right, we'll go to Commissioner activity reports. I reckon you got 4 minutes, maybe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate you noting the time since I'm trying to drive a long distance here and be on time. They're starting the tour without me, basically. So I just want to start on Tuesday. You know, we had lots of meetings and things, our usual stuff. But on Wednesday morning, on the 17th, I was very thrilled to be a commissioner who gets to welcome our new employees for the new employee orientation. And what a very friendly and wonderful large group. And I just want to thank them for their questions and allowing me to join them a little bit later than I hoped. And I've had a few reach out to me afterwards and just thank me for being exciting I was so excited to see them and talk about all the things we're doing. And so it's just, it's really exciting to see these new folks come our team. And I appreciate the work that staff put into the orientation and just giving us a chance all to get in front of them. And I know you also, Lorinda, come in front and discuss with them. We talk about the guiding principles. And I just want to welcome them all again to the team and to Larimer County and just always to say, hey, when you see me, say hi. And also just really grateful for our human resources and Michelle Bird's also involved with that. They put a lot of work into this, and I just want to thank them because it is well run and kind of a fun thing to do. I also met with afterwards the chair of the rodeo board, who Steve is probably on his way out and retiring from the rodeo board. He's been doing that for about 21 years. And he was not a rodeo guy, but he's been the chair. And so we were talking because he might be transitioning off his chair in the board, but he's going to stick around and kind of help that. But he will finish out this season. But I just wanted to give him kind of a public kudos because a lot of folks could just resign and just walk away. But he really wants to make sure that he's there for resources and a backup. And it's just really nice to have that kind of dedication from these volunteers because they're volunteers. And so it's 20 years of volunteering for our fair and rodeo is just really exemplary. And I just wanted to give him just a quick shout out. I did take some time to go down and talk with some community members and stuff in Bertha later that afternoon. That was very interesting and interesting to have questions about what the county does. And I was appreciate their questions about some of the programs they hadn't learned about. Commissioner Gonzalez and I went to Habitat for Humanity elected official elected officials build day, which usually I do women's build day. So this was kind of nice to have a different opportunity to do this. We were joined, Commissioner Cafalis and I were joined by Fort Collins City Council member Melly Patyandi. And so we were the elected officials. We got joined by 3 women who are going to be recipients of these homes, and it's really kind of nice. You know, I love doing Women Build, and Women Build's a little different because you have to also donate, and it's all women in build. But this was something different for us to be involved, and I've done that for many years in Loveland. So it was nice to do a Fort Collins build, and we were up kind of off that East Vine area. And but the women that were involved, and it was Megan, Crystal, and Lori. We worked on their homes, but these were Poudre Build homes, which is that geometry construction program through Poudre School District, which actually started many years ago. Because my kids were in high school, and now my sons and my daughters are in college and grad school and stuff, and that started off at Loveland High, and it was where students get to use their math skills and learn geometry by building homes. And so these homes are part of that program that is an exemplary program, the Poudre School District at Poudre High. And so as Board of County Commissioners, we've invested that $1 million from our American Rescue Plan dollars to buy the lots at Hartside Hill. To build these homes and support that program. So otherwise, they probably it would take so much time to purchase that. It's hard to find funding to buy the lot. So this Poudre Builds program is going to be building those homes at Hartside Hill, and we have already invested $2 million, I believe, into the community center and the large homes in that area. And so this is nice to actually get to be volunteering and hands-on, and something that we allocated resources and funding to, but now we get to talk to those 3 women are going to benefit from those homes and that program, and knowing 1,000 students have passed through that program and had great outcomes. They have very high test scores they track them after this program. They have their test scores are very high. It's really nice for students to find why math is important and relevant. My family, all my kids and my husband are all math geeks, so we know math is every day, whether you're cooking or baking. We love that kind of thing, and it was really fun to be there. And the volunteers that are there, and Kristen from the executive director and CEO, thank you so much for the invitation. So many volunteers to thank. A lot of staff were there organizing and monitoring us. I got to nail in some joists for the rafters, and then line some of the bathroom walls with some of the sheeting to protect from water exposure, and we took care of a wasp nest in one of the walls. So it was really a fun day, and I appreciate it takes a lot to make sure as elected officials don't. I was up on a ladder, make sure I didn't fall off a ladder, those things. But it was a lot of fun. And thanks to the future homeowners for letting us take pictures and hang out and show those things. And then I once again presented that afternoon. I had to run down and present to the Wildfire Interim Committee at the State Capitol, which is a joint committee in the interim from the General Legislature between the state senators and representatives to talk about wildfires. So they had all commissioners talk about our counties and some of the things happening. And so it was a really great conversation, and I had got to present again on behalf of some of the things that we're doing here in Larimer County. It was really well received, and thank them all for their service. And then we had our Estes Valley Planning Advisory Committee. We talked about our new bylaws updating and had some pretty robust discussion. And I appreciate those members who are in their support for on that committee, and they're volunteering their time. They were pretty busy when they first started, and now we're getting a lot of things kind of taken care of. We had the NOCO Partners meeting, which is the NOCO Places 2050. It's an organization of partnerships between the Park Service, or U.S. Park Service, National Park Service, State Forest Service, U.S. Forest Service, several counties, including Larimer County, Boulder County, Jefferson County, more, and nonprofits, as we are still working on our messaging and working together on how we manage lands together. And so you can go to that website and learn more. We're progressing on our language and some of that new visioning and messaging. And it was mentioned, the whole group was reported on in the Denver Post. And that was a recent article if you want to Google that and check that out. Then I had my standing Colorado Fire Commission subcommittee for prescribed fire between the Forest Health Council and the Fire Commission. And we were on that committee meeting as we are making some recommendations for that. And that was very robust meeting. It's really hard when I have so many of these important meetings get put on the same day. I wish I could manage that more, but it's important discussions. And I was grateful for Congressman Neguse came here, and we had he came here and used this very hearing room to present a Purple Heart to Mr. Carl Smith, and well-deserved Vietnam veteran, 40 years later getting that well-deserved Purple Heart. Very moving ceremonies, a lot of wonderful veterans here, and Lee Cooper did an astounding job with his speech and organizing that. Congratulations, well-deserved recognition to Mr. Smith. Thank you, Congressman Neguse, for your wonderful words and to use our hearing room to award that. It was very moving, and I felt very honored and privileged to be here today for that. And then we had a little bit of chance to talk with him over coffee and we brought a lot of staff to kind of talk about some of the things that are happening here in the county. And we followed him over to the food bank over here off of Blue Spruce, where we hung out with him and staff, and we got to talk about the need, which has increased right away off the bat when those benefits changed. I think that was May of last year or this year, and last year it was an immediate 38% increase in need at the food bank. So they had some trouble with their refrigerators and some flash freezers, and so we got to be there and help with the check, which we're still waiting for the photos to share with you, Tom, to share with the public. But he gave out an amount over $600,000 for them to get that freezer fixed in the flash freezer, which is really important for food safety, and also for them to have enough to keep, food safe and cold and buy more in bulk. So thank you, Congressman Neguse, for the work that you do for our county, and those were great things to celebrate. Friday night, I went to the Meadowdale Hills Property Owners Association and gave a speech and connected them with our Welfare Partner Program. It was a virtual meeting, and so I'm just really grateful. I was camping over at Hermit Park, and just great to be able to combine with them. Also, Glen Haven Pancake Breakfast, fantastic. It's about 750 folks. Smokey Bear came. We got the new fire chief, Mr. Ingram, and the former chief, Kevin Zagorda. Amazing, very dedicated individuals. Showed me the new, about a little over $400,000 rig they got. The Colorado Rockies gave them $25,000 for that rig, and really beautiful rig. And the community was just fantastic. And we got to talk. I went twice to the pancake breakfast, believe it or not. So beginning and the end. And so it's great to talk to a lot of folks. And in between, I went invited to the Estes Valley Land Trust breakfast, which was in the DeHosa Valley, which is loved by me. And I want to have breakfast and talk with folks and see the Bear Gulch Ranch. But Rocky Mountain Superintendent Gary Ingram gave a long speech, and I got to learn more about him. He has a really interesting 30-year history, and it was really it was wonderful to hear from him and learn more from him. And then in Hermit Park, the Department of Natural Resources had a demonstration between Jane and Cody, the rescue dog, and shared some stories and showed training in the campground. And the folks got to come and see Cody operate and do some funny things. And that was really a lot of fun to talk with her and learn about their work that they do with our search and rescue in the sheriff's office, because they're deployed through the sheriff's office. And Cody's done over 100 missions. And so, or call out. So I just wanted to thank them both for their service, and I've got to play fetch with him, so that was a lot of fun. And then yesterday, just usual busy meeting, and it was great. I got a chance to meet and talk with our new behavioral health services director, Amy Martonis. And she is just outstanding. I can't wait for the public to get to meet her. And I know she's traveling around and getting to know more of the public. I just wanted to say once again publicly to her, welcome. Thank you so much. I look forward to the work you're going to do on behalf of our residents. And that's all I have, Mr. Chair. Thanks.
Thank you. In the interest of time and to ensure that you're not traveling to wherever you're going rushed, I will defer my Commissioner Activity Report. And at 11:38 a.m., we are adjourned.